you're never starting from square one with a setback. You're never going back to square one. And the reason why you're never going back to square one is because you have changed. You have grown in this journey. You, the person who's done all the work, you have changed. You've learned things, you've grown things, you've seen things. You know different things than you did when you first started with the dog. Oh man, we're talking about setbacks today. How to rebuild trust after a setback. I want to give you a slight trigger warning. This episode got a little bit away on me. And I'm going through some stuff. I wanted to just let people know ahead of time that that I am talking about losing a dog. If that is a trigger for you right now, I get it. I just wanted to let you know. But I think I do get back to the topic at hand eventually. I was just going to delete this whole episode because it got away on me. But you want to know something? It's real. It's raw. It is what it is. I'm going to let it stand. Let's talk about setbacks. Let's get into it. Ready to have a calm and peaceful life with your dog without the stress of those fear-based behaviors? Hi, I'm Tracy, and I've been there, overwhelmed by all the conflicting dog training advice and unsure of what to do next. But now I help dog lovers like you simplify your life with your dog by building confidence naturally, fostering trust, and addressing those fear-based challenges. So, if you're ready, stop chopping those chicken wieners and let's get to it. This episode is brought to you by the Calm Down Dog Bootcamp, featuring Tracy
and Paisley,
happening February 10th and 11th.
Confession time. Have you ever looked at your dog and thought, why won't you just listen?
Oh, I've been there, but here's the thing. Like, what if your dog is listening, but you're missing what they're trying to tell you?
Do dogs talk in your world?
Yes, they do, all the time. And sometimes that behavior is actually fear and not stubbornness.
Mind blown.
I know. And here's the other thing. When we stop seeing the behavior as stubbornness and we start looking at it with curiosity, everything changes.
So instead of getting frustrated, we should be asking, How interesting.
Exactly. And that's what we will be covering in the Calm Down Dog Bootcamp. How to recognize those fear-based behaviors, what's standing in your way, and the number one thing that your dog really needs from you.
Let me guess. It's leadership.
I know you know me so well. And when you know, you know. And when you know, everything changes. We're redefining leadership into something that you can actually do for your dog that makes everything easier.
Sounds amazing. Where do they sign up?
Head to beyondobedience.ca/bootcamp for this free 2-day event happening February 10th and 11th.
Just 1 hour each day to hang out with us, and you'll walk away with actionable steps to help your dog feel safe, calm, and secure.
We're really excited. Can't wait to see you there. Well, hello, my dog-loving friend. It's Tracy. Welcome to Beyond Obedience, the podcast. I'm going to start this off. This is a really important topic and one that everybody struggles with. Everyone struggles with setbacks. And I wanted to start this off by saying the example that I'm going to give is what is currently going on in my life. And while I'm not quite ready to discuss all the details of the events going on, I will tell you that we have suffered another loss of one of our beloved pack members. And as a result, every time there is a loss, we have to do some shifts. There's some shifts that happen, that occur. And I know that I have to be more, more safe, I guess is the word, but I have to give myself the grace to know that my leadership when I'm grieving is obviously not going to be where it should be. And as a result of that, I put in extra precautions for things. But so this is a multifaceted thing, and this actually isn't the topic, although I believe I will do this discussion as a podcast episode, because I think it's important, especially if you're someone who has multiple dogs like I do, and the effect of losing a dog and what that does not only to you but to the pack, and how the pack heals from that. But that's actually not what this is about. But I wanted to use an example of what happened today as of this recording, because of the dynamic that I have here at Beyond Obedience. If you don't know, and you're new, hi, welcome. Welcome. This is a heavy topic to start off with, but if you're new to me, I started this journey here in Nova Scotia when we first moved here with 19 dogs. And yes, you heard me correctly. I did say 19. And then shortly after my father passed away, I inherited his 2 dogs. So, we sort of started off this pack with like 21 dogs. And we've been here for 6 years, and I have, our pack has had to adjust and adapt far too. You're gonna have to give me a little bit of grace here to kind of string these words together. The bottom line is I've lost a lot of dogs in a very short amount of time. I knew that this was a reality when I had such a large pack. Obviously, loving a large pack of dogs like that meant losing a large pack of dogs. And oddly enough, I remember my father saying that to me, kind of pointed out that a lot of my dogs were around the same age. And he was like, you're going to lose a lot of dogs around the same time. And I was like, that's future Tracy's problem. And that future is now. So, for those of you that know and have sent, have given me a hug or sent kind words, I do appreciate that. It does not get any easier. I will say that. It does not get any easier. But as I mentioned, that's not the topic for today. That's not what we're actually going to be talking about, but I'm actually going to make a note of it, that I should talk about grief and loss and how it affects, the pack. But because, as much as I hate to say this, and I do hate to say this, this isn't my first rodeo of losing a dog and having to integrate dogs, and shift pack dynamics around, and then watch kind of the conversations unfold in front of me. And I wanted to share with you today sort of what was going on and the reason for this one. This particular topic is actually about setbacks, right? Behavioral setbacks, and what to do. What to do and how to rebuild trust after a setback. That's what the topic is about. But I wanted to set the scene for you a little bit, and sort of talk about what's going on here and why I'm going to use this example as a setback. So if you didn't know, I had 19 dogs. Not all of my dogs lived in my house with me. Okay, just to be clear, we had a kennel back when we had our actual brick and mortar business. We had the kennel of dogs, and those dogs were part of our daycare groups and our pack walks and our socialization and all of that sort of stuff. So they didn't live in the house with us, but we did actually rotate dogs through the house. So all of them had like an opportunity to live with us, and so we got, our dogs got quite used to sort of a change of pack kind of dynamics happening. But since moving here to Nova Scotia, we had created a kennel here. We had the majority of the dogs were in the kennel, and we've had anywhere from 5 is probably the lowest number of dogs that we have in the house, but we've had anywhere up to 7, 8, depending on what's going on. Obviously, as the dogs got older, they would come up into the house, just for the cushy fireplace retirement lifestyle that you'd want dogs to have. When we found that they didn't like, or they were slowing down with running the trails down at the kennel, because that's what our dogs in the kennel do. They run the trails. If you've been following me for a while, all those videos of me walking dogs down the trail, that's, a lot of them are the kennel dogs. And so if they were starting to find that was a little bit harder, they were starting to slow down, we would bring them up to the house and they would have a cushy fireplace, cot, and, all of the good stuff. And that's essentially what had been going on. But we've had some tragedy hit with unexpected losses. I have been really struggling here in Nova Scotia with Lyme disease. Not only do I have Lyme disease, but my dogs also have gotten Lyme disease. And we have now, as a total, lost 4 dogs to kidney-related complications due to Lyme disease. And it has been a thing. That's all I can really say about it right now. Some of them, when I think about them, I will still burst into tears. So as you can hear, I'm getting choked up. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. So we recently lost Storm, and that has meant that our kennel dog population has gone down to only 2. There's only 2 dogs left in our kennel, and it's not only weird to just have 2 dogs in a kennel. It is heartbreaking for me, if I'm being honest, to go down to do chores every day and walk into the kennel and only see the 2 dogs. So, oh man, this actually was a lot harder than I thought. Okay, so we are going to be integrating the last 2 kennel dogs into our pack. We're bringing them up to the house to integrate with our dogs. Here's the how interesting thing that happened. So today, as of this recording, I was walking the 2 kennel dogs in the forest trails, and I thought, I'm just going to walk them up to the house. I'll let out the other dogs and we'll record what happens. Well, what happened was actually a very how interesting moment where Nike, or Jack Russell, was barking and freaking out about Levi. And interestingly enough, my husband was like, oh, somebody's happy to have a friend. And I'm like, that's not happy. And she was actually quite insecure and frantic. And I mean frantic. And that's not like Nike. And Nike knows Levi. Like Nike, when Nike was younger, I was bringing her down to the kennel to go for those adventure walks with those dogs. So she has been on multiple walks. I can't even tell you how many walks with Levi, and had always been fine. But she was freaking out to the point where she was barking so much that I was like, okay, enough. Like enough already. Like I had a hard time focusing on how all the other dogs were interacting, because Nike's commotion was just unreal. And she was relentless, and she wouldn't let him go. Levi was not, he was ignoring her as best as he could. And Mark was like, why is she doing that? Like she knows Levi. Like, why would she be like that with Levi? And I was like, I don't know. How interesting. See, I live my words. I want to make sure everyone knows that I live my words. How interesting all the time. I'm like, I don't know why she's doing that. How interesting. I have no idea. So there, I literally, the only thing that I could come up with was that Levi is out of context. He's not in the spot where she thinks he should be, and it's making her uncomfortable. So behavior wise, we're going to, we would kind of go, that's a little bit of a setback or how interesting moment. So today I wanted to talk about how we actually rebuild trust with that setback. Because that is a setback. I would have never expected, I was not expecting it at all. I wouldn't expect Nike to react that way. But she did. And so, we're like, well, that's on. That's interesting. And, I thought this is a great example. And for the record, anybody that's in the Fearful Dog, if you're listening and you're in the Fearful Dog, I do have some video. I will be sharing it in the group of her reaction and moving forward. So you'll have an opportunity to see that. But I want to talk about setbacks. The very first thing I want to talk about setbacks and this idea of how do we rebuild after a setback. Now, this wasn't a major setback, right? For me, it's not like I was like devastated, but let's talk about setbacks and why sometimes setbacks feel really, really heavy to us, right? And the only thing that I can sort of come up with is that whenever we get a setback, a lot of us snap back into this, oh my gosh, I'm going to go back to square one, especially if you've been working a while with a dog and you've been working on anxiety or you've been working on some fear issues and the dog has progressed really, really well. But now all of a sudden something happens and you're like, oh, now it looks like the dog has regressed backwards. Why does that feel so heavy to us? Is because many of us think we're back at square one. And I just wanted to mention, and before I get into sort of what we can do to rebuild that trust, is this idea that you're never starting from square one with a setback. You're never going back to square one. And the reason why you're never going back to square one is because you have changed. You have grown in this journey. You, the person who's done all the work. You have changed. You've learned things, you've grown things, you've seen things. You know different things than you did when you first started with the dog. So please rest assured, if you're someone that's like had a setback and you're feeling really down and out, like now you're starting over, you're never starting over. You're never starting over because you yourself have changed. And that, I think, is something that many of us forget. We simply just forget this idea that it's not just that the dog has changed, we've changed. We've grown with the dog, okay? And so let's talk about rebuilding trust with your dog. What does it take to rebuild trust with the dog? And this is what is going to be, this was the how interesting moment of what happened today, and I wanted to share. The very first step, if you have a step back or a setback with your dog, is to step back. You're going to step back to where your dog was successful, because trust isn't linear, right? Sometimes stepping back is the best way to move forward, but also stepping back allows you to actually go back to where your dog was successful to see what your dog's response is. And that's exactly what I did. So as I mentioned, Nike freaking out about Levi was a how interesting moment. And I said to my husband, I'm like, I'm going to actually take her back to the barn, like to the kennel, and reset her. And that's exactly what I did. Interestingly, she has, and these are all the things, these are all the observations I made, because she had, when I was taking her to the kennel all the time, she had a harness that was her quote unquote old harness. Because when she was in the kennel and going for those adventure walks, she would roll in things and all that stuff. So we had am I the only one that does? I'm sure I'm not the only one that does that. She had her old harness and then she has her good harness when we're taking her out in public. Does anyone else have that? Am I the only one? Probably not. I can't be the only one. Anyway. So she had her old harness and it's been hanging there for a while. We just haven't taken her down there for a while. And so I was like, well, I'm going to put your old harness on because we're going back into the woods for the trail and whatnot. And I always had a long line on her because back then she was a puppy and her recall was garbage. So she always had to drag this old ratty long line as well in the woods. And so I put her old harness on and I put her long line on and I walked out. She immediately went in the direction to the back. I'll call it, I guess if you don't live here, you don't know, but the back walkway to our kennel. So you can get to the kennel from the driveway, Or we have a path and like it goes downhill. So there's some handrails there, but we have a path I call it the back way to the kennel. And that's how I used to take her all the time. And she immediately went to that path. And I find that fascinating because, again, she hasn't gone that way in, oh gosh, probably a year. Less than a year. No, maybe a year. It doesn't matter. The point is, it's been a long time. And every other time that we've taken her for a walk, she's gone down the driveway. So I was like, is it the smell of the old harness? Like that sent her back into that thing. Like it was pretty neat. Now, oddly enough, I couldn't take her that way because it's slippery right now. So I wanted to walk down the driveway. When I went to walk her down the driveway, she actually got a little insecure and unsure. And I think it was because her brain was going, I don't understand. I'm supposed to be going this way. I'm wearing the walk harness that takes me down here, but I didn't go that way. She got really unsure about it, really unsure about it. And normally she would walk head pulling almost to go for her walks down the driveway if she was wearing her other equipment. So how interesting. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing was, as I ended up taking her down into the kennel, I let Levi out. First, she walked into the kennel. She did not bark like a crazy woman at Levi. And then I let Levi out. She didn't bark at him again. And in fact, as soon as he started to do the typical stuff that he would do on a walk, she actually started jumping at him and playing with him again immediately. So why am I telling you all of these observations? How interesting. The whole point of this was this particular quote unquote setback or strange behavior that she exhibited was simply because Levi was out of context, right? She had only done kennel walks and integrated with him when he was in the kennel. And bringing him up to the house put him out of context and made her incredibly insecure. Don't you find that fascinating? I find that fascinating. And so now, knowing what I've known and the intel that I've got, I can actually use that information to do an integrated approach to bringing Levi to the house. Like a better way for me to integrate them then would be to bring Nike down to the kennel, take them for their woods walks where she was used to it, and then bring them up to the house together. And I'm sure I'm going to see a very different response from Nike. So that's what I mean to say about this idea of taking a step back to where you're successful and then look for clues. Right? Remember, you always want to stay calm and predictable, reassuring. That's a given. Calm, predictable. We know that. That's leadership stuff, right? And here's the other part that I wanted to mention about setbacks is you have to just keep showing up. Take that step back, keep showing up, and understand that as you show up, every single little win that you get is actually going to life layer on top of that setback. And it does not have to be, the win doesn't have to be in the same area. You don't have to be like, she was scared of this and now I'm doing this over and over again. So to get her past being scared of this, it doesn't have to be that. You could take your dog someplace else and have a win. And that's going to life layer because we're not necessarily talking about building the confidence in being less fearful of the thing that, or less reactive to the thing, but building and life layering experiences with you, right? That's the connection we want to build. So just showing up, if you have to take a break from that area, let's say it's a dog that came out and attacked your dog or whatnot, you have to take a break from that area. You're not starting from square one. Not all is lost. But take your dog to other areas and get them to do fun things and whatnot. And that life layering and experience that you do is actually building the bond with you. And that is going to help when you want to step back into, let's try this thing again. Let's go past this house that now we were once scared of, whatever. right? You can take all of these little wins and life layer it on top of that. And then remember, we got to work on rebuilding trust in yourself. So no beating yourself up, right? Let go of all of that guilt and shame. Forgive yourself. Your dog has already forgiven you. Your dog probably didn't blame you in the first place, right? Right? Recognize that, shit happens. Like, recognize that. And then move on. You got to move on. How interesting it, life layer it, and move on. And remember that life layering that we were talking about, those little wins that life layer and cover up that setback, that happens for you as well. That's for you as well, right? Whenever our dogs have a setback, whenever something, especially if it's something traumatic, like your dog getting attacked by another dog, whenever that happens, that happened to you as well. So these little, like taking your dog someplace else random and just having a great day where you're doing environmental agility and you're having fun and you're not even thinking about it, that life layering stuff, that's for you as well. So do that. All right. Moving forward, that's what you're going to do. You're going to take small steps, celebrate little wins. You're going to adjust your expectations. You're going to focus on building momentum. And then you're going to create an environment where both you and the dog feel supported and safe. Right? That's what that's all about. I know this kind of went off on a weird tangent with me starting off with that, my own life stuff, but thank you. And thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. As I mentioned, I will do an episode on all of this stuff. And if you are in my student community, know that we will definitely be talking about this. And I will be showing videos and going over exactly all the things that I'm doing to integrate my pack while managing grief and the loss of a dog. So that is definitely an episode that will come up. But for now, I just want to say thank you to everybody who is here today. If you are someone who has lots of questions and you want 2 days of fun with Paisley and I, be sure to sign up for that Calm Down Dog Bootcamp. That's coming up February 10th and 11th. That's 2 days. It's an hour. I'm going to say an hour. I usually run long. I'm not going to lie. Once you get me talking about dogs, it's hard for me to shut up. But you're going to come out. It's happening on February 10th and 11th. Go to beyondobedience.ca for more info. /bootcamp. Get signed up. Even if you can't make it live, you will get the replays. You get to be part of the Facebook group. There's going to be live Q&As, and there are so many opportunities for you to sit down and with me and ask questions and get some answers. So can't wait. I am excited for that. As always, get out there today and be the person that your dog thinks you are, because your dog thinks that you're amazing. And so do I. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next episode. Oh, and one more thing. This podcast is meant for entertainment and education purposes only and is not meant to replace hands-on professional training. If you're really struggling with your dog, please reach out to a professional in your area. All right, I think that's it. Bye for now. Beep. This episode is brought to you by the Calm Down Dog Bootcamp, happening February. Nuts. Oh, so I know. And that's what we are going to be covering. See, we're missing something. Who says exactly after mind blown?
Yeah, something's gone.
Something's missing.
Exactly.
Marketing buddy. What?